in chapter 5 is where the guy makes the breakthrough, and he establishes very powerful soul contact. And we're leaving off here, we're on verse 11, and I'll read the next couple verses. It's about the glory of God and Christ. And I beheld and I heard the voice of many angels round about the throne, and the beasts and the elders. And the number of them was 10,000 times 10,000, and thousands of thousands, saying with a loud voice, worthy is the Lamb that was slain to receive power and riches and wisdom and strength and honor and glory and blessing. And every creature which is in heaven and on earth and under the earth, and such as are in the sea, and all that are in them, heard I saying, blessing and honor and glory and power be unto him that sitteth upon the throne and unto the Lamb forever and ever. And the four beasts said, Amen. And the 24 elders fell down and worshiped him that liveth forever and ever. Now, what's interesting is he talks about the number of angels before the throne was 10,000 times 10,000. Anybody know what 10,000 times 10,000 equals?
A million.
100 million.
100 million.
100 million was a big number. Somebody back in John's day, the biggest city on the planet was Rome, and it had 1 million people. And as far as anybody knew, there probably wasn't even 100 million people on the planet. There was a little more than that at that time. But so the average person back then couldn't hardly conceive of a number that big. So what he was kind of saying was, this is a very large number. John would have probably been surprised to look in the future and see that we now have 7 billion people on the planet, which is quite a bit more than 100 million. So that's an interesting number, very large number of people. And this is a number that is influenced by the person that achieves this Christ consciousness. And think of it, when Jesus was crucified, how many followers did he have, Curse?
30.
120.
120, yeah. Okay.
Right. In the book of Acts, it says that there were just 120. Okay, that was still interested in him at the time of the crucifixion.
Yeah.
So that wasn't very many. And then on the day of Pentecost, Peter went and gave a sermon to a group that was gathered, because they gathered around him because of signs and wonders, and a big crowd gathered, and he spoke to them. And there was people from 16 different languages gathered in Jerusalem for a special occasion. And the people in the 16 different languages all heard Peter's sermon in their own language. And at the end of the day, 3,000 people joined with them. So they moved up from 120 after all the miracles that Jesus performed. Only left them with 120. And then in one instant, they went from 120 and they added 3,000 people in one day.
And that was the day of Pentecost?
Right, that was the day of Pentecost. Yeah. So, and that was,
JJ?
yeah.
Hey, what about when the fish and loaves was multiplied? There's in the neighborhood of 5,000, probably more than 5,000 there. They all fell away and wasn't his followers?
Right. Well, remember, shortly thereafter, Jesus told him, except you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you have no part with me. And everybody left. And Jesus turned to Peter and he says, are you going to leave me too?
He says, where else is there for me to go?
Right. He says, I don't have anywhere else to go. You have the words of eternal life.
You're it.
And so, yeah, he turned people off. I think he said kind of startling things sometimes just to separate the wheat from the chaff. But the 120 were very solid people that was still with him on the day of Pentecost. And so, yeah, he attracted a lot of people, and they came and went, but they were in it for themselves, for their own healing. They weren't in it to serve humanity, but the ones that really absorbed his message were just a small handful. But then they increased, in one day, they added 3,000 people because of that great miracle that Peter addressing them all in their own language. So very much impressed, apparently, quite a few people. And then after a period of time, how many people know about the mission of Jesus now? Just about the whole planet. So there's at least 10,000 times 10,000 that were affected by the mission of Jesus, actually more than that. So it's symbolic of a very large number. Now this happens with disciples that reach this point of evolution, where they reach that point to where they are at one with the Christ consciousness. Doesn't mean that they're going to be crucified and resurrected and be go down in history like Jesus so much. However, because for one thing, Jesus was the first to demonstrate this achievement that was made. But he's the first, it says, of a large company of brethren, okay? And many people will wind up doing what he's doing, but not as individuals. They won't all be that famous. In the past, great initiates have been achieved significant recognition. But one thing that's pointed out by DK is the initiates from here on out will be involved in more of a group endeavor. So they will, if you were to say if a dozen people were to achieve the Christ consciousness, they couldn't all wind up being as famous and as Jesus, the individual, was. But they, as a group, will do as Jesus prophesied. They will do even greater works than I have done. And so what the initiates and the people that achieve Christ consciousness will do is they will join with others and they will participate in some type of work that will eventually be known by 10,000 times 10,000 and thousands of thousands. That was true of what Jesus and the Buddha and other great teachers have done. But as more and more people achieve this consciousness, then it will be Group A, and Group B will initiate great endeavors to serve and assist humanity in their evolution. Okay, any comment on that?
It just brought to mind in the early days, we had this concept that we produced freeread.com bumper stickers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Question Reality was one of our bumper stickers. Always like that. In this
Question authority.
in the 60s, the liberals used to use the bumper sticker question authority. Now the liberals are into accept authority. now that the hippie generation are the authorities, they don't want to be questioned. So it's interesting how things change. But anyway, one of the bumper stickers we created was question reality, which is an interesting one. Okay. Then it says, saying the opening of the seals, or the verse 12 reads, saying with a loud voice, worthy is the lamb that was slain to receive power and riches and wisdom and strength and honor and glory and blessing. So he who pursues the fullness of Christ then will sacrifice all the desires of the lower self to accomplish a great work. And this is the symbology here of the beasts and the 24 elders and the angels is all ingredients in our makeup that bow down before the Christ or the God within ourselves. And instead of the emotional part of ourselves wanting to be follow its own will, or even our mind following its own will, or even our physical impulses guiding us, they all become subject to the Spirit. And when they become subject to the Spirit, then it's the fulfillment of these beings before the throne of God, giving glory and honor to God. And in doing so, there's several ingredients mentioned. The first is power. Now, this may not be power as recognized by the world, but it will be manifest through the individual that has the Christ consciousness to accomplish great service to the world. Because the servant, the disciple, seeks not for power over others. This is the difference between the lower self and the higher self. The lower self wants power over things out there. The disciple wants power to serve and bring humanity closer to our spiritual essence. The second thing is riches. Now, the outer riches he will receive will be depend on the situation in which he finds himself. But the inner riches will bring greater wealth, satisfaction than possessed by the greatest kings of the earth. Think of the riches that you want in your own life. Think of maybe the richest man and the richest people in the world. How happy are they? Like Elon Musk is a pretty innovative guy, but he's really looking for a romantic partner, and he's gone through a number of them and been disappointed, and he's not very happy with the relationships that he's had. And look at Bill Gates, just went through a terrible divorce. His wife has lost respect for him, and he's probably not very happy over that. Just having tons of money or outward things does not make a person rich.
Even Tiger Woods, as great as much power and money as he has, gone through hundreds of different relationships, and he doesn't seem very happy to me.
And there's a statement like it said, the less your needs are, the richer you can feel, so to speak. Because if you don't need very much, you
have it all.
Your wealth is in different things than things themselves. Yeah, you look at people with, some of the people get a town 10,000 square foot house and they wind up spending most of their time in a couple square foot of the whole thing. And I spend most of my time right here in this chair I'm in right here. Doesn't take up very much space. So you don't need very much space to actually live. But it's funny when these people get rich, a lot of them physically. First thing they do is they go buy an extra home or two, vacation home, then they'll buy if they live on the West Coast, they'll buy a home on the East Coast. So when they go to the East Coast, they have a place to stay and they got to take care of all that. It takes a lot of effort. And so, and then after that, they get extra cars and then they get a yacht. And all these people that get a tremendous amount of wealth, they almost over 90% of them go through that same process of just a lot of things that are not really necessary for true happiness, for true riches. There's nothing, first of all, the first ingredient of being rich is peace of mind. And a lot of people have a really big problem with just having a sense of peace about them. And this is the first ingredient. And when soul contact is made, that will be one of the signs that you have made contact, is you will have a sense of peace about it. And this is a key ingredient to true riches. The next ingredient is wisdom. Now, we could say this is one of the riches of the Christ consciousness, which has broken the seals. Such a seeker has learned much through trial and error and correcting his mistake over hundreds of lifetimes. He is one with the mind of God and shares in the wisdom of God. So being one with God and being one with the soul brings down a sense of wisdom. And wisdom cannot be taught. You just can't teach people to be wise. It is learned through experience and making a lot of mistakes over a long period of time. Now, strength. So what is true strength anyway? Once one achieves power and riches and wisdom, then he begins to have a natural strength. When you encounter people, do you have a sense about them? You have a strength that, boy, they are really in need of people helping them out all the time, or others, you'll have this sense that this is the type of person I can lean on a little bit. If I want something, I can ask it and he could probably help me out. This is the type of person we all should want to become. That when you encounter the presence of others, that they will feel like they can depend on you because you exude a sense of inner strength. The next quality is honor. And the good mantra around that is to thine own self be true. And this is the pretty much the motto that the person with true soul contact will live by. And next is glory. He will not seek glory for himself, but will seek to bring glory to others. And this is one of the keys of knowledge, is the principle of glory, is you cannot glorify yourself. As soon as you say, if you think you are the best at something and you tell everybody, you know, I'm the smartest guy in this room, what will everybody else in the room try to do? They'll try to prove you're not smart.
Yeah, sure you are.
Hey, JJ.
But suppose, let me just say this, but suppose that Jill tells me that she thinks Adam is smart. Okay. Is anybody going to come and attack Adam and say, no, Adam isn't smart? No, they'll say, well, maybe Adam is smart if Jill says so. So, yeah, what did you have to say there?
Yeah, didn't you say that true humility is when you know your your correct place, right? You know your limitations, but you also know what you're capable of.
Right, right.
Without
True humility is really true honesty. In other words, say you're a good basketball player. Some people, when they're really good at something, I find it's irritating when they kind of pretend they aren't good. Say, I'm not very good. And then if you play pool with them or whatever it is, you find out they're actually pretty good. You feel kind of deceived. Okay. Feel like they're maybe trying to get the best of you by this false humility. So if you're a good, say, basketball player, then yeah, say, oh, there's nothing wrong with saying, yeah, I'm a pretty good basketball player. I can handle myself. So there's nothing wrong with saying that. Recognize where you are and act accordingly. But if you're a mediocre basketball player and you go around bragging to everybody that you're really good, and then when you get up to demonstrating it, then you're going to be embarrassed. And so that's a false. That's not a false humility, but your pride got the best of you. You want to be a good basketball player. That doesn't mean you are one. Okay. Yeah. What comment did you have there?
Yeah, why isn't it glorifying yourself if you say you're the best and you actually are? Why isn't that glorifying yourself?
Well, you don't go around bragging about it. You know, you don't see Michael Jordan going around saying, I'm the best basketball player there ever was. You know, you've never heard him say that, right? But he knows, he knows he's the best basketball player there was. deep inside, you know. He's looked at all his statistics and he knows where he is, but he doesn't go lording it over people. Okay. And now some people do. Some people will say, yeah, I'm the best. Now, Muhammad Ali went around saying I'm the greatest, but that was more of a
promotional gimmick, really.
Promotional gimmick more than anything else. But on the other hand,
he was the greatest.
He was the greatest.
He's probably the greatest single athlete of all time, was Muhammad Ali.
Reminds me of the world's greatest cellist was being interviewed, and the interviewer had discovered that he still practices 2 hours a day, and he asked him, "You're the greatest. Why do you practice 2 hours a day?" And the cellist's response was, "Well, I have noticed some improvement."
Yeah. So, yeah, when you feel a person is lording himself over somebody else, that's when he gets in trouble. Now, Muhammad Ali did it in such a way that, people were kind of tickled by it. But other people, if they do it in a way that's presents themselves as greater than they are, then people find it very annoying, and they'll look for ways to kind of take him down. And so it just doesn't work. But when somebody else says it, especially if you don't know the person, say you're at a party and a guy says, yeah, I'm one of the greatest pool players that ever lived. And you say, oh yeah. But on the other hand, you will really doubt this guy, and you'll think he's being obnoxious, even if he is a good pool player. But on the other hand, if a friend comes up and says, oh, I want you to meet John here, he's one of the greatest pool players you'll ever meet. And then because somebody else said it, it carries a lot more weight than if you try to glorify yourself. So this is the basic principle of glory. 7, blessing. The disciple is blessed because he blesses the world. As you give out, so shall you receive. If you want to be blessed, go bless others. If you want to be happy, make other people happy. If you want to be cheerful, cheer up people. So it's pretty simple. But the basic thing that happens with most people is they think of themselves and dealing with themselves rather than losing themselves and assisting others. When you assist others, there's nothing that will bless you more than doing things that will help and bless other people.
Remember a statement I heard a long time ago. You're never remembered for what you acquire, but for what you give away. And that's true. You know, I remember when people give me something. I don't care how much they have, but you know, I still remember that first $1 you gave me.
Yeah, and I forgot about it. I don't even remember anything about it, but you do.
Yeah. In fact, heck, I've still got it right here. There you have it. There's my, yeah, I hung on to it all these years. But that's what you remember is when people give you stuff. You know, they share it with you. They go out of their way, and so that's what you remember.
Yeah, my uncle bought me a telescope when I really wanted one really bad when I was about 16, and I have warm feelings about him ever since that he did that for me.
Who bought you a telescope?
Dell?
Oh, Dell did?
Yeah, my uncle, Dell.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was surprised that really surprised me. But yeah, I was the only kid in the neighborhood with a telescope. Made all the neighbors nervous. They thought maybe I was spying on them.
You might have been.
Can't really do much with spying on people with a big telescope.
I remember that telescope.
Yeah. Okay, the next verse says, and every creature which is in heaven and on earth and under the earth, and such as are in the sea, and all that are in them, heard I saying, blessing and honor and glory and power be unto him that sitteth on the throne and to the Lamb forever and ever. So praise is given again, but this time not just to the Lamb, but to the one that sits on the throne. So the Lamb is symbolic of the Christ consciousness of the soul. The one that sits on the throne is symbolic of the will of God, so to speak. And to understand this, we must recall the words of Jesus where he says, I and my Father are one. So the Christ consciousness and the consciousness of higher will have to be attuned to each other so they are one. So when you contact the soul brings down the higher will, and you get impressions as to a path that you need to follow. Okay. Then it ends with, and the 4 beasts said amen. And the 24 elders fell down and worshiped him that liveth forever and ever. Now remember, the 4 beasts represent the lower personality, the lower quaternary. And that is represented by the physical etheric self, the life energy of prana that flows through the physical, the emotional body, and the lower mind. All of these things for the disciple are dedicated to the Christ consciousness and the higher will. And the 24 elders represent the 12 petals of the heart center in the heart, the 12 petals of the heart center in the head, representing love and wisdom. Love and wisdom, the higher feelings and the lower feelings merge and they bow down before the God within. And when all the lower parts of ourselves bow down and worship the God within, then we reach a point in the next chapter where the 7 seals are open. And but that has to happen first. The lower parts of ourselves has to bow down and dedicate ourselves to the higher will. And it's like we were talking about earlier, that the disciple needs to dedicate himself to higher will and also ask what that higher will is. What is it I'm supposed to do? What is it that you want me to know? When you seek revelation from a higher source, what am I supposed to be doing? What am I supposed to know? What's good for me to know? What is good for me to pursue? What type of knowledge should I be acquiring? And how do I go about sharing it? Because sharing is the key to our spiritual evolution. Without sharing, the evolution of the individual comes to a standstill, because you may acquire visions, you may acquire inner contact, so to speak, through meditation or whatever, but unless you are able to get something of worth that you feel you can share with your brothers and sisters, your actual evolution comes to a standstill. And the more you share, the more you evolve. Always like the story that DK talks about Sinet Kimura. It said that he calls him a disciple of the solar logos, that he turned his back on the solar logos, he turned his back on the sun to become a son to lesser lives here upon the earth, and dedicated himself. In other words, he cut off opportunities for him to progress under the tutelage of the solar logos, so to speak. And he turned around to become a son to the lesser lives, to bring them up to where he is, and committed to us until the last weary pilgrim makes his way home. And then when the person follows this principle of sharing, then what happens is someone up higher from ourselves will grab us by the hand symbolically and say, I'm here for you, to pull you up higher. And then somebody will come along, things will come along and pull you up higher than you've ever gone before. And so the Christ consciousness is this chain where we turn around, pull up our brother, and then someone else grabs a hold of us and pulls us up. And then we turn around and pull them up. It's a chain that takes us back. Eventually it takes us all back home when the universe has fulfilled the purpose of its creation. Okay, any comments or questions before we wrap it up?
Yeah, that's what Neil Diamond said in one of his songs. He said, raise your hand up to God, because that's what he's there for. And then your other hand out to your fellow man, because that's what he's there for.
Oh yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah, that's so, you know, that's kind of an eternal quality. To give and to receive is really a key of a disciple. To be able to receive and to give simultaneously without thinking, you just become a channel.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Okay. Well, any other comments?
when I put together a business card when we were doing the synthesis group, I had on it, the glory of God is the power of God, and the power of God is within you.
Yeah.
Knowing, that's the glory of God, is to use the power of God correctly. Kind of aligning with what you're saying about what the disciple receives as he raises his hand up to God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or within.
Okay, well, real good. Well, we will see you guys next Sunday at 10 a.m. all being well. Until that time, have a good week, and look at the top of the molecular group for various links of meetings that the groups are going to have.
And what's the exact time of the full moon? You say it's about 7
10
hours?
Yeah, 10:14 tonight, your time. So yeah, say the great invocation just after 10 o'clock tonight.
10:14.
Mountain time. Figure out what your own time is. That's about 6 hours from now or so. Yeah.
Awesome.